Hi, I'm Tyra G, your host for Frankly Speaking with Tyra G. Welcome again to our virtual global gathering of phenomenal women and all of you who love them. They are mothers, daughters, grand and great-grandmothers, fearsome and generous, humble and honest in pursuit of new possibilities and purpose. You know, here we dig deep and we come up strong. For those of you joining us for the first time, each month we explore a new theme inspired by you. But of course, you're my co-host. Why not? We bravely walk into places where tradition has taught us there's some things we just don't talk about, but not at this table. And no matter how hard judgment knocks, it cannot come in. Beloved, here we live beyond the wreckage. Every week, we experience, educate, encourage, and empower each other. We share aha moments and stories that have been left in our pockets for too long. Each week, we start where we are. I am so excited about how the show is progressing. We're celebrating our 5th month of proof that dreams can come true. Now, y'all know, Frankly Speaking with Tyra G is one of my most precious dreams. I thank God for every remembrance of you and your gifts, your ideas, your presence, your encouragement. They've been the gifts that have inspired me. You know I can't do this without you. Thank you so much. You're listening to Radio Fairfax, Fairfax, Virginia, on your TV, computer, or mobile device. And we are webcast worldwide on the internet at www.radiofairfax.org every Saturday evening at 8 p.m. Should you miss us, don't worry. You can catch our podcast on YouTube, Frankly Speaking with Tyra G. And if you feel like connecting with me offline, you know I love that, right? It's easy. Email me at tyra@tyragarlington.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. And thank you, Courtney Nero, for composing and performing our Frankly Speaking theme song and for naming it, I Am Listening. Our theme this month is Voices from the Future. I know, you're trying to say, what? That's unusual, but guess what? The only time we really have is the present. The past is gone, and the future walks among us. And I'm talking about the young people. Yes, those that are going to be adjusting our tubes in our arms when we're old folk and need a lot of help. Yeah, them. Did you know that for the first time in the United States history, we have 4 generations in the workplace at the same time? And each one of them is influenced by different cultural influences that dictate how they view the world today. For example, boomers experienced the moon landing, full of hope, but also the Kennedy assassination, moments of hopelessness. Generation Z was born into a world post-September 11th, and mental health research tells us that there's an underlying sense of anxiety they carry around as baggage. Now add to that technology, a technology revolution that impacts learning and communication styles as well as buying decisions. I want you to close your eyes and imagine a boardroom, big, long table, and around it are representatives from every generation. Well, guess what? It's time to make a decision. And into that pot goes different learning styles, different communication styles, different decision-making styles, different attitudes, different ways of working. Well, I've done it, and I'll tell you what, it's remarkable. Lots of energy. Every week this month, we are hearing in their own words from both Generation Z and Millennials. Today, you will be encouraged and empowered by a young man who does honor to Generation Z. He draws on something within himself to carry others while he climbs. But first, who is Generation Z? I'm glad you asked. you will find some introductory answers as you listen to, but also listen beyond the following words. I'm sharing an excerpt from NPR's youth radio series based on generational researcher Mr. Jeff Nunberg. And I quote, "The students entering college are not millennials. The next generation, Generation Z, has arrived. The oldest in the group are in their 20s. Not only have they never known a world without the internet, some have had smartphones since middle school. And for this group, animated GIFs and emojis are second nature. When you're young and you're talking to people with whom you share a lot of experience, a lot of your communication, whether you're talking or texting or sending emojis or whatever, really isn't so much about communication. It's about connecting with people. When Gen Z, whose members were in grade school when the iPhone came out, it's not just that a picture is worth 1,000 words. A GIF can convey an attitude. One Gen Zer says, I use them every day in almost every conversation that I have. Instead of telling someone how good I look, I just send a picture of Beyonce in a queen's outfit. So I can say with a GIF what I might not be able to say with words. For those of you who may not know, GIFs are formats that support animated and static images. Now, what's new? We've always used images in language, but what's new is the speed of communication. A word like fleek, which means smooth, nice, or sleek, can come out on Monday on Instagram, and your parents know it by Wednesday, or not. And if I were to walk into my class as Tyra G and say, sorry I'm late, I've been chilling with my mains, God only knows what the response to be to that. So how do we effectively and efficiently connect with and communicate among generations? One way is asking. After a short break, we will meet my in-studio Generation Z guest and enjoy an empowering conversation.
I just want to say thank you for having me here today. I've never done a radio talk show before, but I'm going to enjoy this.
Yes, you are. Tell us a little bit about who you are and your journey thus far. I know it hasn't been a lot of years, but they've been full.
Yeah, so starting off, I moved from Mexico when I was just the age of 3. You know, my family moved over. My dad had to work a lot just to make sure that we were paying the rent and everything. But as we were starting off here, my family, my parents were looking for things that, you know, I could be doing. You know, they wanted to put me into an activity, some extracurricular activity that I could be doing rather than just have me outside and play.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I ended up doing martial arts. So I'm actually a martial arts instructor now. I've been teaching for about, I'm going to say maybe 3 to 4 years now.
Mm-hmm. That means you got trained up first, right?
Of course, yes, yeah. Yeah, it was a long process, actually. I started, you know, at the age of 4. I started learning first up until I was about like 12, around 12. I started actually helping with classes first.
Okay.
So I would go up there, I do warm-ups and, you know, do the stretches. And I was a really shy guy, actually.
I don't believe that.
Yeah, I know. It's very hard. It changes you. But I was a very shy guy. I remember that anytime I would get up there and teach, I actually start sweating. And it looked like if I just had taken a shower. It was that bad. But, you know, my instructor helped me through it. And little by little, I just got comfortable in, you know, speaking out to kids and even adults and teaching, actually. Another thing I want to say about myself is that I'm studying at George Mason University with the help of the Tyson Sorority Club. They're helping me continue my education. I'm on my 2nd year, starting off 2nd semester this Monday.
All right. Somebody told me you made the dean's list. I don't know where that came from.
Yes, I did make it. It was something that, you know, I actually didn't realize how hard it could actually be. You know, some people just say, oh, you know, they just say it's hard or it's easy. But once you actually live through it and you have to balance, especially for me, work.
Yeah.
It's a tough situation sometimes. You know, I get home from work sometimes and I'm feeling down, I'm feeling tired,
Mm-hmm.
but I just got to pick myself up and I got to do the work. And I do work Monday through Saturdays.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. What kinds of things do you do to self-motivate? Because I see that about you. You keep yourself going. Your mother's not yelling at you.
No, of course not. No, no, no.
Yeah, you're doing this on your own. So talk to us about what keeps you going.
What really keeps me going is that I don't know how many of the listeners out there, their parents, especially, as young as I am, they do this with them. But my parents always sit down and talk to me about values and morals. They always put me to tears because I'm a very empathetic person. I really try to connect a lot with people. And my dad tells me about his past and how hard it was for him.
Mm-hmm.
And then my mom tells me her perspective as well. And just that feeling that, all of the experience and wisdom that they're giving me, that's what motivates me, and especially that big cultural change that they went through.
Yes.
From, going to a place where they knew everything. They knew the culture, they knew the language, and then moving to a completely different culture. That motivates me. I don't want my work to have to be in vain.
I heard that. And I can't imagine that it is. Do you have sisters or brothers? Or
I do have a younger brother. He's 12. He's going through that stage right now where he might think he knows everything.
Oh, I can't imagine.
I know. It gets tough, but lately I've been seeing some of the influences that I started getting around with.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized, too, that there's going to be some negative influences. So lately when I do my training for martial arts, I actually bring him along with me. This way
Good idea.
He's not outside, like other people that I see that are just outside in the
With
streets.
the idle time.
Of course.
Yeah.
Do something productive. Get yourself, in shape, or do something that mentally keeps you going.
Right. Now, I remember we had a conversation once. We actually had lunch. And
some good pizza.
And some good pizza. I remember you telling me that you were working with younger little people.
Of course.
And you told me you did something to connect with them. You want to share that?
Yeah. My experience, going into my first year of college, I was like, okay, I work with younger kids, 4 to 6, even a little bit older.
Uh-huh.
And I decided to take theater.
Theater.
Theater. The reason why I took theater, I realized that my instructor was always telling me, you got to be like an actor. Sometimes you got to play almost like the bad cop, maybe good cop, be the clown. And so I did theater so I can know more about myself, how I can use more of a facial expressions, hand gestures. This way I could get the kids laughing, but at the same time keep like a strict focus when I needed them to. So that was a great experience. I ended up writing like a poem and even like doing a skit as well. But
and how did they respond? What?
Oh no, I saw a big change actually. That as I started doing theater, and I started putting the things into practice, right away I saw the attention of the younger ones, especially, go from just like getting, getting distracted to like keeping their eyes on me, and like everywhere I would move around the dojo, the studio, they'd be following me and stuff like that. So it was a great experience.
Children at that age, I've worked with early childhood and first graders, and they're sponges.
They are,
and they want to get wet. They want to get full, and when you connect with them, and they tend to respond with all of their senses.
Yes.
So I'm guessing the theatrical approach, was wonderful for them. You connected with the eyes, with the ears, with the voice, with the movement, and they're like, "What?"
They actually started like mimicking some of the stuff I did.
Is that
like,
right?
Yeah. So like I would do like a silly face to get their attention. And they'd be laughing, like moving back and forth. And then they'd be like, "Oh, did you see like what he did?" It's like, and then like they try to make each other laugh as well.
Did it increase, or I should say, accelerate their learning in terms of martial arts?
I believe it did. There always needs to be a balance. I know that when I look at different instructors,
yes,
sometimes they might be very like strict all the way through, and I see some that are very, just very silly with them. And I noticed the two differences is that the kids get kind of tired of just seeing one side of that instructor. So having that balance of being a little bit silly but strict at the same time, it really, switches up what they do. It catches the kids off guard. So they're always like, okay, like we got to pay attention. Like something's going on here.
Awesome. So I heard you say you just finished freshman year. You want to tell me how you did in terms of your classes? You said it was hard. What does that mean?
So my first year, I went with it. My mindset was in the right spot. Everything was good. Made the dean's list as well. But I think what caught me off guard was second semester. Second semester really caught me off guard. I wasn't doing so well with classes, and it was me, I guess, because of the long break, not being used to that, the changing environment. High school is year round. You only get like once 1 week, maybe 2 weeks of a break. But going into second semester in university, that threw me off. And I think I was a little bit unmotivated there. I started getting a little lazy, and I didn't prepare myself enough to do well in those classes. Ended up doing pretty well actually. Didn't fail any class. And the second year though, that's what I'm trying to make up for.
You're doing great. I'm so proud of you. You told me something before we went on air about decision making and how it's both mental and emotional.
Yes.
Can you share that?
Yes. So I've been actually, I have an Audible, and I've been listening to the book, The 5-Second Rule.
Okay.
And in the 5-second rule, it mentions how decisions are made upon, you can make decisions in 5 seconds, but it's more physiological. So what happens is that, let's say I want to wake up early. And if I go and I wake up, I have 5 seconds before my brain starts to tell me all these negative things like, oh, but you're still too tired, make all these excuses, like we usually do. It happens to a lot of us. And, you got 5 seconds. So before your brain can make up those excuses, you need to move your body.
Okay.
You need to move your body, because as soon as your body moves, the only thing that your brain can do is follow. And once that happens, excuses are gone, you keep moving, and the day goes as you want.
Good point. And I'm thinking that has to help you because you're working full time as well as being in school full time.
Of course.
And there has to be the time when you go, I don't think so. I'm not getting out from underneath this car.
Yeah. No, it has happened to me. With all honesty, I have woken up late sometimes for classes, and it's because, we get into that mindset where our brain's like, oh, like make up all these excuses. So as soon as I heard this book, I'm like, you know what? All this is going to change. And I feel more empowered in my life.
I like that word. That word. And that's one of the things, one of my goals with this show is through our language and our stories that people begin to feel empowered and know that they too can change. But I think the most important message we can all give is that we're not perfect.
Of course. And
that life is a process. It's not an event. And so you use the word, I'm learning. And, it's wonderful. Now, do you have time for any hobbies? I mean, you're working and you're in school. What's left over?
My hobbies really, what I like to do is, I'm getting back into my training. I like mixed martial arts. That's one thing I like to do. And, for New Year's resolutions, I made up a little set of hobbies that I want to get back to. And the other thing is just drawing.
Oh.
So I do find here and there, like some time to, have at least 15, 20 minutes to draw something. I'm trying to draw at least one thing a day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I had no idea. Are you any good?
I try self-learning. Self-learning. I'm getting there.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is something has told you to take pencil to paper or paint to paper. Correct. And so it's in there somewhere.
Yes.
It's in there somewhere. Well, let me ask you one other thing. If I said to you, Eduardo, it's 3 years from now, what are you doing?
Oh, that's a very good question.
Dream a little for me.
No. Okay, this is going to sound a little weird maybe.
That's okay. Weird is all right. Okay.
But I do have a journal, and I wrote down what I picture myself in the future.
Uh-huh.
Now I'm going to add that and also maybe a little bit of my dreams.
Okay.
So starting off, I can see myself waking up, pretty big house. There's a pool back there. I like pool. I like swimming. But I see myself, waking up to some nice classical music, grabbing a cup of tea, maybe reading a little bit, going into an office that I have in the room. I see myself with the business.
Okay.
I don't know what business yet, but I see myself with the business. And instead of working in it, I'm actually working outside of it. So what's going on is that I want to be able to create a business.
Yes.
And then be able to work from it from the outside. Make it an efficient business where it's a system that runs itself. Rather than people running the system, the system, it can bring in people and it can work efficiently.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, that's thinking outside the box. I actually love it. I actually love a creative mind. It's interesting. I'm gonna flip around a little bit because a couple of things you just said to me. I was going to talk about the attributes of Generation Z. Isn't that interesting? Generation Z. But I want to take a look at some of the values based on some research because you've hit a couple of them. One says 77% in the values section. Let's see, 77% of Gen Z are either extremely or very interested in volunteering to gain work experience. You give me a true false on that.
I would say true.
Okay.
True.
This one is very personal because we've talked about it. They have more than 10 apps on their smartphone, with 10% having more than 40. Okay, where are you in that?
I think it's actually more like 90.
And tell me what you did to camouflage the fact that you had so many. This is what I like. It's creative.
Yeah, I actually make little folders on the iPhone, So I have like all my buying section on one side, maybe let's say like some games. I like having some like mental agility games and stuff in there. And, the rest of them I just leave open. This way I don't have that many pages and stuff like that.
Yeah, so you say. Okay, all right. Now, 55% of Gen Z students, okay, that's you, say that their parents are putting pressure on them to gain professional experience during high school. Did that happen to you when you were in high school? Did your parents want you to get work experience before you went to college?
Going back from my personal perspective and the way that my culture works, or like how I see most of my culture, that didn't really happen. My mom actually said one time to me, if your occupation starts getting in the way of high school, so going back to being a martial arts instructor.
Okay.
I was working in high school. I was working. So they didn't really push me to have any experience. They just wanted me to make sure I had a balance.
I like that. And that's going to be more and more and more true. The older you get, the more gifts and talents you begin to explore. Right. And I want to move to one about peer groups. Do you feel driven by your peer groups in any way?
Yes, I truly do. I got a small group of people that they always tell me this, but they always believe in me. And I think that's inspiring. You got to find those people that motivate you. You can't have friends that put you down. You really can't. Using the word empower, you have to have people around you that empower you.
Yes.
I was also listening to this other book called Napoleon's Hill, 17 Keys to Success. And it talks about having a mastermind group.
Yes.
And what that talks about is just, surrounding yourself around people that, maybe have the same ideas or, can help you out.
I'm in a mastermind group, and I wasn't until I met, I have a brand coach, and she's in, I guess, maybe several, but she talked about the significance, and doing what I do is pretty much me.
Right.
And I went to a conference, and I met 3 or 4 other women. We weren't doing the same thing, but we were thinking the same way. And we were able to, and still are able to, encourage one another. And that's excellent.
Yeah. It reminds me of a quote actually by Eleanor Roosevelt. It says, small minds talk about people, average mind talk about events, and great minds talk about ideas.
There you go. Now, this is going to be an interesting segue because I wanted to get to that, talking about peers. And you talked about the positive influence of your peers. There's another group of people that don't really have a positive influence. And it's actually a topic that is as old as the oldest relationship. But with social media, exponentially, it's more contagious and dangerous with youth today. And for those of you listening, I'm talking about bullying. Yes, I am. According to a 2015 CDC National Youth Risk Behavior Surveillance Report, listen to this, 20.2% of 9 through 12th graders have been bullied in school. It's 1/5, okay? 17.7 have seriously attempted suicide as a result. 29.9 felt sad and hopeless every day for over 2 or more weeks in a row because of bullying. 15.5% of 9 through 12th graders reported being electronically bullied via email, chat rooms, instant messaging, website, or texting. Now, this report is more than 3 years old, and those numbers are going up. They're not going down. A student state representative program says depression, anxiety, and many other psychological challenges can result from bullying, and exposure to violence can lead to a wide array of negative behaviors and outcomes, including alcohol and drug use, self-harm and suicide, arrests, and gun violence. Now, those are facts. I want you to look at bullying through another lens. There's an author, Shane Koizan, in his new and now very famous poem, To This Day, who expresses his own experiences of being bullied as a child and the profound and lasting effects on an individual. But he also affirms the inner strength that allows people to move beyond what they are called. I want to share one verse with you. Every school was a big top circus tent, and the pecking order went from acrobats to lion tamers, from clowns to carnies. These were miles ahead of who we were. We were freaks, lobster claw boys and bearded ladies, oddities juggling depression and loneliness, playing solitaire spin the bottle, trying to kiss the wounded parts of ourselves and heal. But at night, while others slept, we kept walking the tightrope. It was practice. And some of us fell. But I want to tell them that all of this is just debris. It's left over when we finally decide to smash all the things we thought we used to be. And if you can't see anything beautiful about yourself, get a better mirror. Look a little closer. Stare a little longer. Because there's something inside of you that made you keep trying despite everyone who told you to quit. You built a cast around your broken heart, and you signed it yourself. You signed it, they were wrong. Because maybe you didn't belong to a group or a clique. Maybe they decided to pick you last for basketball or everything. Maybe you used to bring bruises and broken teeth to show and tell, but you never told. Because how can you hold your ground if everyone around you wants to bury you beneath it? You have to believe that they were wrong. They have to be wrong. Why else would we still be here? Now, Eduardo, that's not you and your mastermind group and your tribe and the people keeping positive. Can you empathize and walk into a space where you may be bullied, and what resource could you possibly have? I mean, this is sad this author was 14 when he wrote this, and he's just out there all alone. It turns out the backstory of this is he's living with an aunt and uncle. His family, he believes, has deserted him. So he's got desertion at home, mistreatment at school.
Right.
What do you think about what I just read to you?
Going through that poem, it actually hit me. It did make me actually, I'm almost here like tearing up a little bit because I really try to see from other people's perspective. And it's hard, it truly is. And I have been with friends that, you know, they've been feeling really down.
Yeah.
Because of maybe other influences. And, you know, that's why I pull them in, or, you know, our other friends pull them in and try to cheer them up. You know, it's not easy. But
what happens to them that gets them there? Do they share that with you?
They have shared that with me, and it's a lot. It depends on the environment they're in.
Mm-hmm.
I know some friend, he was feeling also like a lot of negative things happening to him, and he was just asking himself like, why is this happening to me?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to say, you know. Sometimes it's the draw of the card.
Yeah,
it's the draw of the card. But you know, him telling me about his experience, you know, I pulled him in, our other friends pulled him in, and we were always there for him.
Oh, that's
you know,
wonderful.
You have to find, like I said, you have to find people that, you know, pick you up. If you're around people who are just picking at you, you're not getting anywhere. And for others, you know, they don't speak up. You know, you might try fooling around back with them, but deep inside it actually hurts you. So that's why it's also...
So what I'm hearing is people interacting with you in an insensitive way.
Right.
You can try and brush it off by making it humor, but inside it's hurting.
We all react in different ways.
So if I were that person and you were talking to me, can you think of what you might say to me to get me through that one moment in time where I'm like, I can't do this anymore?
Yeah. What I would say, look, they haven't seen all you can be. There's so much potential. There truly is so much potential.
Yeah.
You just gotta let all of them say what they say. Look not in the right now, but for the future. Work for yourself, empower yourself. Forget about what they say, and I'll have a helping hand for you.
Oh, yeah. I think what I'm hearing you say is you love them.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, we're going to come back to this, but we're going to take a brief break. Okay? Welcome back again. I was feeling so good about this discussion with Eduardo because we talked about a very ugly, negative scene that more young people than we know, and more adults as well than we know are dealing with, and that's bullying. That's someone having power over you through their behavior, their words, and you in a place of vulnerability can't get in touch with your worthiness, can't separate your circumstances from what's happening to you, and you're very, very, very vulnerable. So I was thinking about Eduardo, who's very positive and has surrounded himself with friends of like minds and attitudes. And I thought, well, maybe he'd share with us. Maybe he'd let us into his circle and talk a little bit about his friends. What kind of people? I know you said, Eduardo, they're people that encourage you and stay positive. Tell us a little bit more about your buddies.
Well, my buddies actually, you know, they're like, we actually like to do things that are not like big, or like we don't like to go out like other people do, you know. We find ourselves most of the time going to each other's homes, you know, maybe just playing some music, go grabbing something to eat, but, you know, we just play, you know, things that I think some of us have forgotten to do, like play Uno together, you know, play some like board games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's what we like to do, keeping it small. At the same time, you did say, and I did say that, you know, we do have like minds, and, you know, anytime we get together, we always talk about the same things. the same topics always arise, that we want to be financially free. We want to be in a point where we don't want to be struggling, to make a payment, struggling, to keep our family under a roof, clothes. We've also talked about just getting ahead in life. We want to do something big, and also giving back to our families and our community. Families, because they're always there, in community because you need to have people in the community that know that they care.
Yes, absolutely. And that, when I think about the natural disasters that occurred this year, showed us that deep down inside of just about everybody is that desire to help its community survive.
Yes.
And to deposit good things into the community. I think that's special because, one, your age. I've talked to a number of Gen Zers, and they're not necessarily all in the same place, which I wouldn't expect, in terms of dreams and all of that. But I like the idea that you have a plan. I like the idea that you have listened to Audible books, and they're not necessarily superhero books.
Yeah.
They might be superhero intellectual books. But I appreciate the fact that you're carrying with you the knowledge and encouragement of those who have already succeeded. And the other thing I saw under Gen Z employees, where it says that they actually prefer in-person communication with managers as opposed to emailing and messaging, or instant messaging, I should say. And that's a little different than millennials. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. A lot of the times, and going back to the friends, because this is where I realize is that it is true. We want more personal connections.
Mm-hmm.
I know that one of our friends, anytime that, one of us is on our phone, he's like, "Hey, put the phone down. Like, what are you doing?" And it's the same thing with me. I always go into work. I always sit down and talk to my manager, talk to my coworkers as well. That are also, they're like family. Working in a martial arts studio, they feel like family. And I think it is true. We want that personal touch. We want to remember how, our family used to talk with each other. I think that's the main idea for that.
I remember when I was your age, and well, no, I was in college. I was away from home, but in high school, we used to sit down at dinner, and we used to talk to each other. And I remember takeaways that I had, from my parents. And I remember a fun thing we used to do on Saturday mornings. We always had breakfast together, and my parents, I love them so. I used to teach them the latest dances, and we would listen to my music, if you would. But you said something. Let me go back to that. You said you like classical music, and I was just doing this research on how we get young people interested in classical music. What happened? You're an outrider. What happened?
Yeah. I talked to my mom about this too, because I get all my influence from music from my parents.
Okay.
I got my mom, my parents are actually 11 years apart, believe it or not.
Wow.
And they've been married now for, I think, 25 years, a little bit more, maybe close to 30.
Yes.
And I really don't know what happened. My mom just told me that maybe as a little kid, she would put all types of music up there. And I realized that growing up, there are different songs that help me do different things.
Yes.
I use the classical music maybe to read, maybe to do some work. I use more instrumental, but more modern music to get me to work out and stuff like that.
All right. Guess what I'm going to ask you to do now?
Read
your letter.
Read my letter? Okay.
Yes. I ask all of my guests to write a letter to themselves and share with us now. Would you do that?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
So, letter to myself.
Yes.
Know that the road isn't as easy as others make it to be. You will always have obstacles to overcome. Look to your family for hope and motivation. Listen to the stories of those older than you. They have wisdom that you haven't acquired yet. Don't have the mindset that says you know it all. Sit and listen. Listen to the words spoken spoken to you. At the same time, don't be afraid to ask for help. Find people that believe in you and share the same ideas as you. And always remember, everyone deserves respect, from the poorest to the richest.
I like that. I like that a lot. I have a spiritual doggy bag I prepare every week to share with our listeners for that moment when during the week they're going, oh, I'm sick and tired of this. I'm tired of I don't want to get out of bed. And oh, by the way, I don't like the way he said that to me, or those kids are driving me crazy. Well, I've got a little something I want to share, a little something I want to share with you today. So, bear with me. Today, we focused on one potential cause of brokenness in our children: bullying. Fact, often bullying content is directed at physical attributes. Fact, sometimes we subconsciously give negative self-esteem signals to our children through our own behavior. Example, when I was growing up, my mother was gorgeous. Oh my goodness. And in my teens, and I look like daddy, by the way, and in my teens, my dates would come and go, oh, where's your beautiful mother? An insecure me was damaged by that. And yet mother was so encouraging. She'd say, oh, princess, pretty is as pretty does. But she didn't know I was looking in the mirror seeing something else. It took me a while to change the tapes. So today, my spiritual doggy bag includes some tips and techniques for parents to help our children walk in their worthiness and to separate their circumstance from who they are. First of all, don't teach your child self-criticism. If you're not one of the fortunate 1/5 who likes their looks, then it's time to consider the impact of your body bashing and what it might have on your son or daughter. Many women make these kinds of comments without even realizing that they can pass on subliminal messages to their daughters, making them believe it's natural, even encouraged, for a girl to be critical of and unhappy with her own body. A recent UK government inquiry Reflections on Body Image report says, now listen to this, women only need to hear another woman talking negatively about herself for 3 to 5 minutes before her own body confidence decreases. So what can we do to help our children not pick up this attitude? The first thing is to gain confidence of being kinder to yourself. It's not always easy to show a positive attitude about your body in front of your child, especially if you don't feel it. But by trying to improve your own outward body confidence, you'll help your child feel positive about hers or his too. Once you've ditched the negative comments, get positive. If you like to shape your hips, well, or how strong you feel after a gym session, say so. If you think your new haircut or dress suits you, or that you're caring or a funny person, mention it. You may feel you may feel self-conscious at first, but the new assured you will work wonders on your self-esteem and your child's too. Be aware of throwaway comments. It's time to drop the negative, like my hair looks awful right now. Be kind to yourself. Smile at yourself in the mirror and focus on at least one thing every day that you like about yourself. Start saying positive things about your body and personality out loud. Write yourself a message that says how you look and how you'd like to feel. Write it on sticky notes and stick it all around. Go to the refrigerator and be faced with a message that says, hello, gorgeous, or how you look so perfect today. Now, I want to add a personal note for you parents and for you young people who are listening. It's actually the lyrics from one of my favorite songs by JoJo called Exceptional. I'd like to read them to you now. You're beautiful, but you don't know. can't see what's there inside your soul. Always feeling like you're not good enough. You wish you could be someone else. But I can see just who you are. You're exceptional, the way you are. You don't need anyone to change, for nobody. You're incredible. Anyone can see that. When will you believe it? You're nothing but exceptional. You never think you measure up. Never smart or cool or pretty enough. Always feeling different from all the rest. You feel so out of place. You think you don't fit in. I think you're perfect in the skin you're in. You're just perfect just the way you are. You're exceptional the way you are. Don't need to change for nobody. You're incredible. Anyone can see that. But when will you believe that? You're nothing but exceptional. If you could see the one I see when I see you, you know how lucky you are to be you. You see, I see right through into you, and you are exceptional, just the way you are. You don't need to change for nobody. You're incredible. Anyone can see that. But when will you believe that? You're exceptional, the way you are. Don't need to change for nobody. You're incredible. Anyway, anyone can see that. When will you believe it? Let me remind you that you are amazing just as you are. You are stronger than you feel. You are smarter than you know. You are more loved than you can ever imagine. These are truths that the mirror will not show you. You have a blessed week. Know that you're loved. And I am going to have our piano version of our theme song take us out. Be well now. Bye. Say goodbye to Eduardo. Wish him luck. He's wonderful, and I'm so glad he was with us.
Take care. Thank you for having me here today.
You bet.